Hello, good afternoon, Facebook. Good afternoon, YouTube. I hope I'm live. Welcome to Divinely Classic. My name is Zwelani Ndlovu, and this video I've been meaning to do it for over 2 weeks now because the story that I actually want to talk about is a story that's been on the internet since on October 27th. I think today's the 9th. If you look at the title, I don't know if you can see the title on my screen. It's a talking about nurses working two full-time jobs, and that's a story that happened about 3 weeks ago now. A gentleman, in NMC website, it says it's a Mr. Charity Ndlovu, I think, and in ROCN website, it said it's a Mrs. So I'm not too sure if it's a male or a female that this story is relating to. But it's just the story itself that is kind of interesting. Interesting, not in a good way, to be honest, because the outcome is negative for the person who we're talking about. So it's a story of a gentleman who's obviously, I want to say it's a gentleman. I want to believe he's a gentleman or lady, whoever, who is doing two full-time jobs as a nurse. And you would wonder, wow, how is that person doing it? That was the first thing I asked when I heard this story. I was like, how do you do that? I am a nurse myself, and the maximum that I have done is been 4 nights in a row. That's 12 hours, 12 hours, that's 48 hours. And I am knocked out flat after that. Um, Let me just quickly put that up. I did try to put have a picture of the stories, but my internet, it's not my internet, the phone that I'm trying to use is not really doing the job, because I wanted that story up so you can see it, but you can go search for it. It's public information. It's on the NMC website. It's on the ROCM website. So it's not like it's a secret. It's public information. And I've got the ROCN website on my laptop that I'm using, but I couldn't put it up on my phone for whatever reason. Like I said earlier, my name is Zwelani Ndlovu, and welcome to the Divinely Classic. If this is your first time on my channel, please like, please subscribe, please share this video. So we're just talking about, how many hours should nurses be working? To be honest, I did not get a clear answer. I have searched and searched, and there is no clear answer to how many hours we should be working. Like I said, we've got on the ROCN. Let me quickly go to ROCN website, which I checked as well, and it said that you can go check for it. Like I said, this is all public information. Talking about working 48-hour weekly limits. So I think according to some law somewhere, you cannot work more than 48-hour weekly limit. I'm not sure how they divide that. It says over a reference period of 17 weeks. What that means is that you cannot work for, I'm just trying to read it again. It's not very clear. It's not very clear, to be honest, how much you should be working and how much you shouldn't be working. But one thing that I know from experience is working too much, you're putting yourself at risk, you're putting your patient at risk. And, at the end, you just think, is it really worth it? Your pain is at risk. Without your pain, you cannot work. You can't pay your bills, you can't look after your families. And because of the level of fatigue that you will get from doing two jobs at a time, you're likely to make errors. And, the thing about nursing or healthcare, if mostly in the clinical sector, is you're likely to make very costly error, really. Somebody could die from just one mistake. So it's important that we are working, when we should be working, not overstressing ourselves and going into that level of fatigue. back to the story. I know I'm all over the place. So it's about this person. RCN says it's a lady, so we'll just go with a lady. It says the fitness to practice panel finds Zwelani Ndlovu, who worked two full-time jobs in 2021. The fitness to practice said she acted dishonestly and she risked patient safety for financial gain. And this nurse, they said she's a learning disability nurse, and she was doing two full-time jobs for 7 months. Two full-time jobs for 7 months. Like I said, I wonder how people get the energy to do it. Because when I first heard the story, I was like, how can you do two full-time jobs? I do my full-time every week and I struggle. At the end of the week, especially when you do nights, you are so tired that the days you're at home, you are sleeping. So if you're a nurse, just tell me your maximum hours that you can do in a week. So the story continues that she was found to be working 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. shifts at a Mersey Care NHS Foundation Trust. And she was also doing night shifts, 7 p.m. to 7:15 in a 2-week shift pattern at a mental health and social service provider between February and September 2021. He goes to say that she was putting patients at risk of harm by working excessive hours, and that is true. Fatigue is not something you should play with. I say this because when I'm so tired and I go to work, I know how I'm extra careful so you don't make errors. That's why when you're doing the medication rounds, you have to be focused. Mentally, you have to be alert. I think in the wards, I've never really done ward care, but I think what they do in the wards is that they wear uniform to say, you're doing your medication round. I've worked in A&E, and we don't really do that in my trust anyway, where I worked. We don't really do that. When it's medication, you have to be focused. You don't really need to wear a uniform at the back to say, oh, you're doing the medication round. So that's to tell you the importance of being careful about what you're doing, because one slight error, like I said earlier, can be very fatal. It can be just one error too much. At the moment, I am non-clinical. I don't do much clinical nursing, but I remember something somebody said to me the other time. He said, at least the good thing is nobody's going to die. At the moment, I don't physically look after patients. Most times my job doesn't entail that at the moment. But when you're in the hospital, when you have patients that you are dealing with one-to-one, it's important that you are not too fatigued. You are not too stressed, because you are putting yourself at risk, you're putting the patient at risk. I've not said this 1,000,001 times. That's because it is true. That is the fact. So this nurse, she worked in a clinical setting at both organizations, they said, and she was looking after vulnerable patients, including those with learning disabilities and autism, and those who presented a risk of offending or had criminal conviction, and even working with adults who are experiencing complex mental illnesses. So she was working with, the most vulnerable people. And the panel went on to say that she puts her patient at risk because she was working excessive hours. And she was also paid, and there was also a fraudulent part of it. There was also a fraudulent part to this investigation of what this nurse did. She was not only working 2 jobs, she also got money from both trusts to go to the same training, so she did defraud the system there. And these were things that they used against her. It said she was also paid by both employers to attend training during this time. And on several dates between the 27th of September and 12th of October 2021, she was given paid study leave by the trust while she was working for another trust. So basically, she had paid study leave from this trust, and then she was using it to work for the other trust and definitely collecting money. And apparently, she actually went to one training paid for by both trusts, according to this story. I don't know, but that's what we heard. And they went on to say that she was referred to the NMC in October 2021 after an anonymous whistleblowing complaint was made to the trust about her other full-time job She admitted to 4 out of the 9 charges against her, and with the remaining proved at a hearing. Giving evidence, she did say she did not mention, the name of one employer when she was applying for the other job because she did not want the trust to request a reference from her previous employer. However, it was found that she started working after she had filed an application with the trust. Well, that's reflecting on her actions. She acknowledged that they could have had detrimental effect on her patients, but she also added that the potential for piecemeal care for my patient due to divided responsibility was significant. Significant. So she acknowledged that she was doing the wrong thing and it could have impacted on her patient like to their detriment. But she said she did not think she had put anyone at risk of harm. That's really neither here nor there. At first she said yes, the potential for piecemeal care for her client was significant, was divided responsibility. Sorry, let me read that again. The potential for piecemeal care for my clients due to divided responsibility was significant. However, she had not put anyone at risk. Okay. However, she was found guilty and dishonest and that she abused her position of trust. Okay. Because I think she was at a leadership position in one trust. So she had the opportunity to swap her shifts around when she wanted. So when it didn't suit the other side, she had the power to swap the shifts around where she can work here and go straight to the other job. And how she managed to do that, I do not know. It says that she took the last possible break at 5:45 a.m. and she would arrive home by 6 a.m. to rest for her day shift at the trust. And the day shift started, I think, 9 o'clock. So she slept for 3 hours in 48 hours, I think. So in 48 hours, she would sleep for 3 hours with her breaks in between anyway. But altogether, that is a lot of strain that you are taking your body through because you want to work. And there are many things that are many questions here, many questions. When I first saw this thing on Facebook, and I actually saw some people who were justifying what she was doing. And somebody actually said, oh, I know somebody who does this. They haven't really broken the law, blah, 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 blah. That's still, like I said, I'm still trying to do more research in that. But one thing that we can all agree is how risky that care is, how risky, how unsafe that practice is, how much stress you're putting your body on or through, how much stress you're putting your body through. And yes, you're going to make a lot of money. Like I said, I'm a nurse. When I first received my first salary, I'm not going to lie, I thought, whoa, is this what I went to uni for? It wasn't as much as I thought. I expected more. It wasn't at all. And I did feel sad because you hear the stories of nurses who make, oh God, they say when you're a nurse, you're going to make a lot of money. Who knows if this is how they make the money? Who knows if you have to work basically 7 days a week? How can you do that? I've got family that I prioritize over everything. My family first for me. It doesn't matter how much you're going to pay. It doesn't matter what job it is. Jobs will come and go. Family will stay. Family will need you. If you've got kids and you miss that time with them, I know, for some people, they don't have much choice. We all have to work. I have to work. I work 5 days a week now, but thank God I still have the ability to look after my family. That's why I changed my job, So, but when you decide to go for a job of 7 days a week, how do you rest? Let's assume maybe this person doesn't have family here. Maybe she's a single person, no child, no partner, no husband, no whatever. But don't you rest? Don't you sleep? how can you take your body through that for that long because of money? And what they say, people always come with the argument of, oh, we black, there's what's called black tax. You're gonna send money back home. You got people waiting for you to you that you need to take care of, blah 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 blah. That is good. It's a good thing that you've got people that you support in one way or the other. But one thing I'll tell you is, no matter how much you send to them, God forbid anything happens to you, they will live on. Nobody's going to die because you died. Like it or not, nobody, the world is not going to stop because you died. You might die while trying to make more money. We've had stories of nurses who would drop dead. We've had stories of people who die from exhaustion. They work. Oh, I need to do this. I need to do that. I need to make so much money. Or the other person is working in the agency. They're making this S amount of money every week. And then you look at some people and you think, is it not this job I'm doing that this person is doing? How come they have so much to spend? We don't know. Probably working 7 days a week. Am I in the best place to judge? No. But what can I say about this? It is unsafe, whether you like it or not, whether you agree or not. It is unsafe for you, for your patient. Like I said, there were weeks, for whatever reason, there was a time I used to do that. I said, let me just do all my shifts at a stretch, and then I have 3 days in between, and then I can do my long stretch again. But I do my 4 nights in a row. 2 nights after, I'm still like a zombie. I still don't get myself right. And by the time I get myself right, it's time to go back to work again. I'm doing another 4 straight 9 shifts. So to imagine that somebody can do 7 days a week of that non-stop, it's insane and should be discouraged. It should be discouraged. Like I said, I saw comments where people were like, yeah, they haven't done anything wrong. I know somebody who is doing it. And I told that person, if you know somebody who is doing this thing, you need to go tell them. They are, I want to believe, breaking the law. They are putting their clients at risk. They are slowly killing themselves because, we want to make money. We want to keep money for our kids, which is fab. Like I said earlier, back home in Nigeria, they'll tell you, next of kin is not smiling. There's always somebody who is waiting for you to bring money. And if you, because of that, go the extra mile, do things that you shouldn't be doing, this person now, she's been suspended. It says she was suspended for 9 months with an 18-month interim suspension order imposed to allow for appeal, basically. But she's bearing the consequence alone because she wanted to make so much money. Maybe retire early. I don't know a reason. It might be family issues. It might be just somebody who wants to make a lot of money because that's what they heard. And this person, from the name, is an African. And when I saw the news on Facebook, there was even a racial argument as well. I'm telling you, I actually had to contribute. The person that posted it, I saw it first from before I went to NMC website to check. She's a black lady, a nurse. And she posted it and said, overseas trained nurse suspended because they were doing full-time job. And then there was this white lady that came in. I think she's a nurse from her comment. She was like, oh, this is not about race. It's about the fact that this person was fraudulent. You have to tell the truth. This person was fraudulent. She's not being penalized because she's overseas trained nurse. I have to go under the comment to say this original poster hasn't said anything that she doesn't deserve to be penalized. She deserves to be penalized, quite all right. Let's not try to make this thing about race, black, white, it's not really necessary. But the truth is, this lady is a black lady and she has done this thing, which is highly condemnable. It should be condemned. People should not be encouraged to work that much, and I've just seen another post. It's a podcast, actually. It says, working 2 full-time jobs, why would a nurse risk their registration? And that is true. So this is a podcast posted on the 7th of November, actually. That's 2 days ago. It says our podcast also is on ROCN website, Nursing Standard, ROCNI.com, Nursing Standard. It says, our podcast also discusses the NMC proposed fee raise. Apparently, they're raising the nursing fee in our registration and the fee that we use to keep our registration. There's a possible below inflation 2.5 pay increase. Nice. for NHS staff and what sick pay nurses are entitled to. So they are on about that. So this is it, it's a podcast, and it says the news of the nurse, exactly it's the same story. The news of the nurse who was suspended after she secretly worked two full-time jobs comes under the spotlight in this week's episode of Nursing Standard podcast. Let me just see if I can get that to the audio. Let's see. I think that is I think that is hello and welcome. I don't know if you can hear. Nursing Standard podcast with me, RCNI content editor, Alistair Mason. Today I'm joined again by senior journalist Shruti Shakti for a discussion about the big story in Mersey. Shruti, welcome. It's nice to see you face to face. That's true. We are face to face, and I don't know if you can hear, because I haven't listened to this podcast. I'm just listening to it with you now. So it's a 15-minute podcast. I'm not sure we listened to all of that. Well, last time we did this, we spoke about the proposed increase in NMC fees. We have no say on that coming up, as well as some news about next year's change. But I wanted to start by talking about a story that really seems to have resonated with Nursing Standard readers. And it's to do with a nurse who was secretly working two full-time jobs. So, Shruti, what are the details of it?
Yes, so this story has been incredibly popular. Learning disability nurse has been suspended by the MSc after she was caught working two full-time jobs for 7 months. She was working 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. shifts at a hospital trust, as well as night shifts from 7 p.m. to 7:15 a.m. at her mental health and social services provider. And in both of her jobs, she worked with quite vulnerable patients.
So she was suspended after a fitness to practice hearing. What did she say at the hearing?
So she acknowledged that what she did could have had a detrimental effect on her patients, her colleagues, and the wider community, and that the potential for piecemeal care for her patients was significant because of her divided responsibilities. But she did tell the fitness practice panel that she didn't think she'd put anyone at a risk of harm. It is important to note here, I think, that we don't really know the exact circumstances or reasons why she did this, because these were redacted from the FTP papers for privacy reasons.
Okay, and she was given a 9-month suspension, and notwithstanding what you've just said about some of the information being redacted, what was the thinking behind that?
So the FTP panel said that she did put those vulnerable patients at risk of harm by working the excessive hours, their words, and they found that she'd acted dishonestly, had demonstrated a lack of integrity and insight, and abused a position of trust for financial gain. But the panel did consider that she didn't have any previous fitness practice history, and also that she'd admitted to some of the charges. They also said there wasn't any evidence of the misconduct being repeated, and that the misconduct itself overall wasn't fundamentally incompatible with her staying on the register. So I think possibly the fact that she engaged with the process and had admitted to some of the charges may have kind of worked in her favour in terms of being struck off.
Okay, and as I said at the start, this story really seems to have resonated with our readers. We've had hundreds of comments on our Facebook page about it. So what have readers been saying?
Oh, definitely. I mean, readers have been really vocal on social media, especially on our Facebook page. The majority, if not all of them, are siding with the nurse. Many have said that she was probably facing financial hardship and doing what she could to manage it rather than doing it for financial gain. The FTP panel, one person said, financial gain, that's a very strange way to spell survival. Quite a few readers pointed out that if she'd been working a full-time substantive role and then picked a bank shift, for example, for the rest of the week, that would have been seen as being absolutely fine. Some other people speculated that maybe she was having to pay off debts, or she was a single mother trying to make ends meet. One person said, "I doubt she did this for malicious reasons. It would work 2 full-time jobs going through hardship."
And it is probably worth repeating, as you said before, that we don't know her personal reasons. behind that. But it's a fascinating story, and another story I think that our readers may well have a lot to say about, and the listeners to the podcast, is the next item we're going to talk about, which is around next year's Agenda for Change Pay Award. So what we have.
So the government has now submitted its evidence to the NHS Pay Review Board.
Okay, that is it. I'm trying to upload the story, the picture, but I don't know what's wrong with my I can't upload it. I don't know why. Yeah, so while I was just talking about this story, I browsed the ROCN website, and this podcast just came on the same story. That's why I had to put it up so you can listen to it. So it's the trending news, to be honest, in nursing world in the UK at the moment, and it's just something that we need to learn from. Like they rightly said, we don't know the circumstances why she decided to do that. Who in the right state of mind really we want to do 2 full-time nursing job? 2, 1, people struggle. People struggle to do 1 full-time nursing job. That's why you see some people going and doing part-time, and then you do maybe bank agency, where you have a little bit more flexibility. But just doing 2 full-time, it's insane. And I just wish her all the best. And I hope we've learned something from this. These stories are being shared so that we can learn from it. And yeah, I just wanted to share that story. So let me know your thoughts about this story in the comment section. How many hours should we really be working as nurses? How many hours should we be doing every week? Is it right to do 2 full-time jobs, work around the clock? I've heard stories where people say, oh, they do night shift and then they come back and they do day shift. I'm like, how do you do it? When I do night shift, one of the reasons I never traveled to do night shifts away from Birmingham is I will be sleeping on the way. I would fall asleep. So I am very careful. So how do people do it? Do a night shift and do a day shift? I can't make sense of it. Anyway, still trying to upload. It's not coming up. But please, if you like this video, please share, please subscribe to my channel. And I hope to see you on my next video. And share your thoughts about this story. What do you think? Until my next stream, you look after yourself.